Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. In today's session, I'm just going to be talking to a financial advisor, financial consultant, wealth manager, should I say, Michael Donkor, who can talk to you a little bit about what he does. And we're really going to just be talking about the COVID-19 situation, our thoughts on it, and how you can really be thinking about things potentially from a different standpoint in order to capitalize from this whole sort of experience. So over to you, Michael. So yeah, just tell us who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Michael.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with a Michael.
This is it.
Learned that, by the way. So yeah, I'm a wealth manager, financial advisor, whatever you want to term it. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. I've been in finance for the last 10 years. So I was previously in investment advice, stockbroking. And what I essentially do is sit down with individuals and small companies and look at their finances on a holistic approach, and from a tax efficient side of things as well. So always thinking about not just where they can make money, but also where they can save money as well. So looking at finance from two aspects, and then looking at it from where they are now to where they want to be in the long term. So it's not just about what the benefits of it is for now, but also what the benefits of the advice is for the future and for the next generation as well. So if there's opportunity to add that into the plan, then that's where I want to be, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, that sounds noble, especially in a situation like this. And obviously for the people who are just finding out me for the first time, my name is Michael Tabaradi. I currently work for the NHS, or NHSX, which is the digital arm of the NHS, providing digital solutions for primary care, tertiary care, secondary care. But outside of that as well, and within the NHS, I'm a registered life coach or executive coach, qualified under the Institute of Leadership and Management, and also the European Mentoring Coaching Council as well. So a lot of what I do is coaching a lot of senior managers, leaders, basically around how they can manage complexity and ambiguity, especially in times like this, in addition to things around communication, confidence, and just trying to define one's meaning, value, and purpose as well. I'm also an author of 4 books, just literally released one called The Power of Goals. I didn't do that in the last video, so I want to make sure that, you know, I got a little plug here.
Go get that. Here's my copy. I'm still waiting for my copy.
After the crisis. There's an e-copy you can get as well. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. So I guess I want to dive straight into it. So obviously this is a sticky situation for many people. And I just want to see how you sort of like taken on this experience so far. I know we spoke about it a little bit before this, but how are you taking this so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I mean, I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got missus. I'm at home with 2 or 3 other people, and I think for me, it's just about kind of staying in the right mindset, trying to stay positive. Because there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, I had to take the kids out of school because neither me and my missus are key workers. So we're having to kind of keep them at home, homeschool them, so to speak, and keep a structure in place. But the one thing that kind of resonated to me was when I took them home, the school gave us a large amount of work, assuming that they're not coming back until September.
Oh yeah, for real.
So, you know, who knows how long this process could be. It is quite uncertain with that. So for me, it is about kind of, you know, keeping the right mindset, staying positive. You know, I always say kind of expect the unexpected. We don't know what's going to happen, but we have to be prepared for it. We have to be able to adapt. And I think that's what's important right now, that times are changing, structures are changing, and we have to be adaptable to that. So that's what my mindset has been about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you know what you really picked up on? I think you said 2 key words that really stuck out. Structure, you said probably about 4 times, which is really key. You said something about your mindset. And 2, you said you need to be adaptable, which I think is really important. I think personally for me, I've been quite composed.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that is, if anything's getting to me, is the amount of work that I'm doing at home
Yeah.
for the NHS. Obviously, being part of the NHS, there's lots of stuff that needs to be done, which is affecting a little bit stuff that I'm doing outside of work or after work. But other than that, like, my mentality is great. I'm very, I don't want to say positive. I'm quite objective about the whole situation. And only focusing on things that I can control, and accepting the things that I currently can't control, you know? So that's the sort of perspective I'm happening. So if we move into like some of those structures that you have in place, like what does that look like for you?
So, I mean, day-to-day kind of processes. So, for example, for me right now, the priority is making sure that my two boys are not kind of left behind in terms of education. So, for me, I've been trying to do my best to kind of set some homeschooling, if you will, in terms of trying to build some normality in the day-to-day. So, waking up at the same times with the kid, or just getting them up early, ready for school, getting them to do certain lessons, trying to get them to do some exercise to burn them out, which doesn't work because they've got unlimited energy. But just trying to get them into a rhythm of playing and working, and then family time as well. So that's one aspect of it for the kids. For me and the missus, and trying to get that structure, she's still working from home, so it's important that I can try and get an order in place so that she can get her work done. The kids are not distracting her, and then I can try and get some work done myself. I think the difference for me is I'm self-employed, so you know, I can kind of work around the clock. I can kind of work around everybody else, wherever in regards to what my missus is doing. She needs to be on particular calls, or she needs to be in certain meetings at certain times. So it's just about kind of getting that order in place, and you know, trying not to deviate too much from the plan. Yes, there's going to be days when it doesn't go as planned. You know, we'll put the diary up on the wall, and 9 o'clock they got maths, and 10 o'clock they got PE and arts and crafts and all that, and that might not always happen. But I think just trying to have a plan in place initially and trying to work on that over time is what's keeping the peace, so to speak. Yeah,
I 100% echoing. I haven't called it necessarily a structure. I've called it routines.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be that sense of normality, like you're saying, because once you start to slip out of that, it's almost like you lose your mind a little bit, you know, and you start to get a sense of unmotivation. I never realized how important the commute was for me. You know, I boast about how I used to listen to podcasts or read books or even write a book, you know, to and from like work. And so I don't have that break or that distinction between, you know, obviously being in a working physical environment and being at home, but I have to sort of create that myself, which is quite important, obviously.
Yeah, it's important because, you know, like you said, those journeys break up your day as well. If, you know, I was actively traveling to go meet clients in the city and going from one office to the other. And in between those times when I'm jumping on the DLR or the train and going to those meetings, I'm using that time to have a bit of a thought process, a bit of a reset for whatever's happened from the previous meeting, regardless of the circumstances. And sometimes you need that, just that time away. That's just that little break. This is constant. This is 24 hours. This don't stop. The breaks, when they have the break, they're still in your face. You know what I mean? So it's not really a break unless you get a chance to walk out the house and get a little bit of fresh air for yourself. So it's just getting that balance. But that's my experience, because I'm at home with other people in the house. So it's different for other individuals. If you're by yourself, then you need to try and find some form of way of kind of, you know, shifting, you know, your environment almost, because, you know, it might be that you do a few hours in one room and then you take a break and you go into another room, just so that you can change the environment and change the setting, or if you get a chance, go to the balcony if you got one, or go outside if you can, and go through that process. So it's just about kind of figuring out what works for you in your circumstances, as you know, depending on who you're with and where you're at.
100% agree with that, man. 100% agree. And obviously you're self-employed.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to deal with that? Has it been smooth? Has it been difficult? Have you had to change certain things, around all of that stuff?
Yeah, it's been quite difficult a little bit, and I think that's because I was at St. James's Place, and I'm not there anymore. And
Hmm.
I think for me, it's been a case of trying to figure out what is the right step for me next.
Hmm.
Um, I'm still actively helping clients,
Hmm.
and for example, the coronavirus has, I'm guessing it's affected everybody.
Hmm.
Um, there's been circumstances where individual companies have wanted to reach out to me or approach me,
Mm.
and the coronavirus has delayed that.
Mm.
And I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm sure
Hmm.
they didn't know that was going to happen, and that's why I said it's important that we have to try and adapt to
Hmm.
these circumstances, because we have no idea what is going to happen in these situations. We're seeing a lot of these companies
Mm.
going into liquidation,
Hmm.
a lot of redundancies. The hospitals are full up.
Hmm.
So we need to learn how to adapt. For me, it's really just been a case of trying to figure out how I'm going to move forward with my
Hmm.
business,
Hmm.
and how I'm going to essentially brand myself
Mm.
going forward, and what areas I'm going to tap into, what kind of platforms I'm going to tap into,
Hmm.
what kind of markets I want to look at, what kind of target audience I want to look at.
Hmm.
And I think it's just a case of doing things one at a time. For me, in particular, because I can't multitask,
Mm.
so I
Hmm.
need to be able to kind of see it first, and then know what it's going to look like, and then work towards it.
Mm.
That's one thing that I've been trying to do with my time, just trying to really make sure that I can structure myself properly so that I can approach this
Hmm.
in a real diligent way, and reach out to the right people, basically.
Hmm. Hmm. I hear you, man. Like, I guess for me, look, obviously I'm in employment with the NHS, so
Yeah,
slightly different scenario. But also the stuff I do outside of work, I still have my coaching clients, which is good, you know. But I have realized that, one or two of them obviously are a bit wary based on the situation. Maybe they're not in the right headspace. I would argue that's a need for a coach even more, but that's not for me to say, you know. But I guess this whole situation makes me think about, if things were normalized again, which they will be, what am I taking from this experience? What am I learning? So from a business standpoint, am I going to have a better balance between the offline and the online? Am I going to be more collaborative in nature? Do I need to diversify a bit more? Obviously people do that in the investment sense. Why not within the business sense as well? Um, and just thinking about things in a way where, if anything was like this was to happen again,
yeah.
how would I be better prepared? You know?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I do feel that you will be in a better position to adapt, again using that word, because we're now experiencing other avenues and other ways to do things. And I mean, you told me that you're used to speaking to people on Skype, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
always see them face to face.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess now there's probably a bit more comfort in telling people that we don't have to sit down in front of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do this with you remotely anyway. So
Mm.
even if you're in the other side of the UK, or you're across the seas, we can still have these conversations. And I think it changes. I keep going back to mindset, because a
Mm.
lot of this is drilled down to you as an individual, how confident you are, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that
Mm-hmm.
you can do it now in
Mm-hmm.
this aspect, you probably portray it to someone more confidently, and
Mm.
that will probably give them more confidence to want to work with you anyway. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the key thing that we're going to get out of this. I did a lot of meetings face to face. I
Mm.
kind of relied on me using my personality and my charm, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
to sit
Mm-hmm.
down in front of someone and get them to really know me. And I
Mm.
think now it's a case of getting used to this kind of environment,
Mm.
and being able to still kind of relay who I am and what I do, and for them to kind of understand that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
if this happens again,
Mm-hmm.
God forbid it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll be more um, aware of how to go about it and probably have more tissues in the toilet or everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear you, man. It's crazy how that tissue situation is just broken up. Well, why tissues first? I guess people are scared of making a mess. Do you know what I mean?
Everyone's stressing. I mean, I went straight for the wipes. I ain't even gonna lie. I got kids. I was like, wipes. Let me get wipes. And, alternative. Everyone's going for tissues, and I don't know if I did the right thing or the wrong thing, but
I've always got my tissue to hand, so you just never know.
Always be prepared.
This is it.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time, and it does kind of show you what people find as essential or important in their everyday circumstances as well. So yeah, we should be prepared for the. Let's not say the next one, but if it else happens, then hopefully we should be able to be ready for it.
Definitely, man. And I guess obviously based on history, and I'm going to move slightly into your sort of field of things. We've seen through history that there's always been some sort of drastic thing that happens to the economy, whether it's something with the banks, or the housing crisis, or the dot-com boom, or a pandemic like this.
Yeah.
And so with this in mind, like, how do you think economies can recover from something like this? Obviously loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think the thing is, it is about a lot of this is stemming around herd mentality, because when we have these pandemics or we have these crises, the market tends to move in line with how everybody feels, because a lot of the investment decisions are irrational. A lot of people are trading off the back of fear and concern and worry about their own money, and that just kind of filters through to everybody else, and it trickles down, and before you know it, the market's down 30-40%. It's a natural thing. I don't think it's ever going to change, but I think as it's one individual at a time. I think if we can individually realize that in some of these circumstances we don't have to panic, because a lot of these are cycles, like you said. These have happened so many times. In the last 10 years, we've probably had the European crisis, the Argentina crisis, we had the financial recession 2007, 2008. So many things have dictated the movement in the market, but it's always tend to bounce back at some point. So and this has been going on for, if you go back all the way back to the Great Depression and even further, this has been a regular thing. Every 10 years or so, we have something bad happening, and we tend to see a bounce back. And it's just trying to get into the right mentality that it should recover. In the long run, it should all benefit us, but in the short term, it never feels that way. It never feels that way. So it's just trying to shift that mentality again, really trying to get into the mindset that, and I think that's what we need to do as an economy. But it starts from the individual. If we could do that, then we won't see too much worry in terms of the markets, and that trickles down to everything else, because government are trying to protect everyone, or trying to build stimulus by reducing interest rates, and they're going to be pumping money in to cover things, and a lot of that is stemming from fear. And if you're in a position where you're either prepared for these scenarios where you put some money away, or you're not too concerned, then if the let's say the government is aware or gets a good understanding of how people are feeling about this, then they might not need to jump in too much to help. So it does stem from us. We need to kind of be a bit more diligent and show a bit more kind of confidence that we're not too worried about these situations, because we can get out, we can get through it onto the other side as well.
100%, man. Like, I was watching a video, and he quite eloquently said that this is a psychological game. This is a psychological game. And obviously with those stimulus packages, someone has to pay for it. Whether that's changes in inflation or whatever it is, devaluation of money, X, Y, and Z. And so picking up on your point on cycles, it's almost like people like you and us,
Hmm.
and other sort of micro and macro leaders need to make people aware of these cycles so people can condition themselves
Hmm.
to act accordingly so
Yeah.
they don't run by fear. Obviously,
Yeah.
focusing on what they can control and accepting what they can't at the
Yeah.
moment. And so I'm thinking about, even in terms of where, uh, I don't know, indices or uh, uh, different sort of companies are dipping and stuff.
Yeah.
Are there ways in which we can capitalize that from a financial point of view? Is it something that we need to step away from? Should we be thinking about business in a different way? Like, what are your thoughts around the personal individual in terms of like monetary opportunities and stuff?
So I would say it first stems around preference, risk profile.
Hmm.
So, are you a risk taker? Are you risk averse? Do you like to invest? Are you already invested? Because yes, the markets have crashed. There's some companies that are going up. There's now people talking about shorting certain companies as well.
Hmm.
But is that something you're actually interested in?
Mm.
Are you actually comfortable with that risk? Are you actually comfortable with that, with the volatility that we're dealing with at the moment? Because
Mm.
if you're not, then should you be investing in the first place?
Hmm.
And if we're in a time of uncertainty and we don't know how long this is going to last, do you want to have cash with you in the worst case scenario, as
Mm.
opposed to just trying to put it into whatever looks attractive at the moment? So
Mm.
that's me just kind of asking that initial question from a wealth management perspective.
Mm.
How comfortable are you with risk? That would be my
Mm.
initial thought process.
Mm.
And then really in terms of an investment process, I always try to, when I was broken a lot, um, one of the things I'd always speak about is kind of expect the long term, hope for the short term. So if you
Mm.
are investing now, ideally you should be anticipating the benefits in the longer term.
Mhm.
But if they do, if the markets do pick up, because we have seen, for example, the FTSE 100 start to bounce back from its lows
Mm.
in this crisis,
Mhm.
then, there might be some short term gain from this as well.
Mhm.
One way I would probably suggest that people can really benefit from this is through average pound cost averaging,
Mhm.
which essentially is, as the markets are moving and going up and down, you're slowly or regularly buying
Mhm.
into the market. And what
Mhm.
you're essentially doing is trying to, over time, bring your average price down
Mhm.
to a considerable level.
Mhm.
And that will just kind of smooth things out, as opposed to try and get the right time into the market. But,
Mhm.
the term is usually, it's about your time in the market as opposed to the timing
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
market.
Mhm.
So that's one of the key things I try and focus on with people.
That's a very solid point. That's a very solid point. And you know what? It feeds into the piece of work that I guess all of us need to be focusing on, which I cover in my book as well. Just planning and goals is essential, just
Mhm.
in general,
Yeah,
because if you don't have a goal in mind, then it's blind determination, you know.
yeah,
And with that in mind, your risk, like, it's high risk. You have potential opportunities to make huge mistakes, which obviously they're lessons, in the future. But why take those lessons when you can actually capitalize now and in the long term as well?
yeah,
And so I think, based on what you're saying and based on what I'm thinking about people's personal goals in general, um, you just have to have a goal in mind,
yeah,
regardless.
yeah,
And it really comes back down to, what can you actually control? What
yeah,
can you actually train? Thinking about one's mindset,
yeah,
i.e., their established set of attitudes, is the one thing that you actually have. You can't, like, without your mindset, you're nothing. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and so I guess, what I would say to people is, think about what it is that you want. So almost think about what was happening before this whole crisis,
yeah,
what's happening now in this crisis, and what do you need to change in
yeah.
order to engineer and craft success for you, whatever that looks like.
And you're spot on with the goals thing, because I think that you need to have a focus on
Yeah.
something to work towards,
Hmm.
and I think also you need to be realistic.
Hmm.
And the reason I say that is because we're in a very weird time at the moment,
Hmm.
but we essentially have a lot of time on our hands.
Hmm.
Really figure out what we want to do.
Hmm.
And if you spend the last year trying to learn French, and it hasn't worked, and you're now in the position to actually pick it up and do it, and you're still not doing it, maybe it's not what you want to do. Maybe you're not interested. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Maybe you're not even thinking about that anymore. So, and maybe it's realistic to just say that's not part of the plan. Let me just put that aside and focus on what's actually important to me. Maybe learning this new skill for my industry. I'm in IT and I want to learn how to do coding, or I want to learn how to do programming, or I want to learn how to use Sage or whatever. Maybe you're in finance and you're actually interested in trading the markets, and you want to learn about technical analysis and actually drill down on what MACD levels look like, and all these Bollinger Bands and all this other stuff that you want to tap into. So I think it's a case of being realistic about what you actually want to gain. For me, being a wealth manager, my thing has always been about trying to help people. And I realize that my key thing is that I need to interact with people, regardless of whether I'm in front of them or not. So I need to find a way to reach out to these people and then eventually speak to them on an individual basis. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to grow as a business, and the only way I'm going to be able to kind of help people from a wealth aspect of things.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And, you know, even talking about just doing what's important to you, in sort of like a psychological standpoint, that really means like live by your values. You know, so understanding your values will help you determine what your sense of meaning and purpose is, which will create those sense of priorities and goals for you moving forward in your life. I think there's some solid advice there, man. And I'm just thinking, like, what sort of like last piece of words would you want to give to people in terms of how they can sort of like move forward with this?
I guess control the controllables. That sense, control what you can control. I mean, you know, we're seeing a lot at the moment. The coronavirus, if that's the main reason that a lot of these people are dying. I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories or anything like that.
Why not, man? Why not?
I saw a clip earlier on the police chasing some guy on Facebook. I don't want to be that guy. So what I'm saying is, you know, we don't know what's going on at the moment. Okay? But we are aware of our surroundings, what we have access to, what we're interested in, what we want to achieve, and ultimately what the goal is going to be. And I think we just need to try and focus on that and build from that, and also try and stay positive. Because you know, I do feel that we will get out of this at the other side as well. Unfortunately, there are people that are dying because of this, and it sounds like it's going to continue. It could even start to get a bit worse in the next couple of weeks or months or so. But you know, as a kind of human race, and I'm starting to sound like a preacher or something, but we will get through this, and you know, as long as we can stay positive and, you know, get to the other side, then we can kind of build from that going forward.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Where can people find out more about you and what you do and everything else?
Yeah, so really reach out to me on LinkedIn. Michael Donkor is my LinkedIn there. I've got a website, michaelgdonkor.com. You can send me an email, info@michaelgdonkor.com. Probably building up a Instagram page in terms of wealth management, so that I can start kind of reaching out to people on that aspect of things now. But early days, like, that wasn't my interest in terms of IT marketing, and this is what I mean. Trust about me. Kind of working with the stuff that you're interested in, and if you're not really sure about certain areas, outsource it. I think that's important. I think if you're not the guy that's going to make a website, find someone that can. If you're not the guy that's going to be able to build a good marketing plan, find someone that can do it for you. And sometimes I think we procrastinate too much about trying to do things for ourselves that we're not actually interested in, and not thinking about just getting the task at hand done. A lot of it is about executing the plan. So that's where you can find me. And any questions, you know, if you need my help, or if you're any concerns as well, let me know. Like Michael said, I'm not at his level yet, but I'm doing a bit
Oh,
of life.
come on. Nah, not even, not even, not
But
even.
happy to speak to people about that as well, and that's really just to make sure people are at a good peace of mind, really, in terms of where they are now, where they want to be going forward.
Fantastic, man. If you guys want structure, if you guys want to be adaptable in this current climate, or even after this current climate, if you just want to understand how to plan your wealth and your money in the right way, then definitely check out Michael Donkor. Most probably going to be posting this on IGTV. You're probably watching it on that now, or YouTube. And yeah, you can definitely find out more from us very, very soon. This is Michael Tabaradi. Take care. God bless. Understand, reach, and expand. Peace.
All right, peace.